Tune in tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.
The official confirmation came from the president on the White House website. Since Congress hasn't passed an immigration bill, he'll bypass them with his own plan and detail it in an address to the nation.
And so what I'm going to be laying out is the things that I can do with my lawful authority as president to make the system work better.
There is something fundamentally unfair about a government that takes away so much of people's money, power, and personal control while telling them that life will be better as a result. That's a quote, and those are the words of our next guest, and they fit perfectly in light of what voters said at the midterm elections and what President Obama is scheduled to deliver tonight with executive action on immigration. It's a pleasure to welcome to MidPoint the chairman of Forbes Media, former two-time presidential candidate, author of the latest book, Money, How the Destruction of the Dollar Threatens the Global Economy and What We Can Do About It. Steve Forbes joins us. Mr. Forbes, thanks so much for being here.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
I need to tell also, too, that you answer your own phone, which shocked a lot of people. They said, Steve Forbes answers his own phone? There you go. That shows a man who knows his business, knows how to work his company, too. Mr. Forbes, let me ask you this regarding the president and what he is saying and what he is going to do. There are those who say, quite frankly, that this is potentially the most lawless and dangerous president in our time simply because of the actions that he takes without one consideration of what the American people want. Would you agree with that assertion?
Well, it's not just what the American people want. The way he's going about it is absolutely unconstitutional. We don't have a monarchy here. He wants to make the presidency, it seems, into a 4-year monarchy. You get to do what you want. If Congress doesn't do what you want, then you go do it anyway, like Louis XIV, issue an edict. So this is going to be a huge fight. And I think Congress should pass a resolution, certainly the Republicans, as soon as they get control, that says that the Constitution still reigns, the president is not a monarch, and you don't make law by decree, you do it through the legislative process. And there's a lot of other things they can do through the power of the purse, and Ted Cruz came up with a good idea yesterday, and that is no confirmations for government officials other than national security, public safety, and the like, until the president backs down.
What is it, in your opinion, that has emboldened this president to the point of taking these actions and basically, if you will, spitting in the face of Republicans and anybody who disagrees with him?
Well, he's been doing this for a while. You've seen the EPA make law, their war against coal. They try to do it with appointments to the National Labor Relations Board. So this has been part of a pattern, which is why Speaker Boehner several months ago filed a lawsuit against the president for his unconstitutional actions. So this is part of a pattern. This is, of course, the biggest one yet. I think he's doing it because he realizes he took a shellacking with these elections, and therefore he figures if he arouses the Republicans, baits the Republicans, generates a big fight, therefore he can recover and take the initiative again. I think he's misreading the American people. They were shocked by what happened this summer with kids crossing the border like that. And I think he's misjudged the mood, and I think he's going to be slapped down.
You used an interesting word in there, the word baits, if you will. That comes down to the next possibility here. In your assertion, in your estimation, is the president here and others involved with him just baiting the Republicans at this time, just hoping that they do something foolish and knowing that even if they do what they expect of them, that the American public, they hope, will backlash and blame the Republicans as the president has done?
I think so. He was a community organizer, remember, once upon a time, which means arousing conflict, stoking conflict. That's all he seems to know how to do, my way or the highway. And I think Republicans know that what he wants to do, and that's why I think they're coming up, will come up with some very good proposals, including, I think, passing some immigration reform, like removing or raising the caps on H-1B visas for high-tech workers. We want reform, sensible reform, but we believe it should be done in a lawful, constitutional way, not like we're an old line monarchy.
I've got about 30 seconds, and we'll take a break and come back. But do you think that the Republicans right now, the ones who are there in power, have the spine to take this president on?
If they don't, they'll be finding new lines of work. I think the American people will push them. The party base will push them. The new members will push them. So I think the answer is it'll be very different than what they'd have done 2 years ago. Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Forbes, please hang on. Short break. We are back with Steve Forbes. We will plumb the depths of where the Republican Party is going, not just in response to what the president says this evening regarding executive action, but where they go from here to 2016 and where they need to go in order to avoid some of those Democratic traps. And at 34 minutes after the hour, you will search how Firefox wants you to search, or else, or so they hope. One slice of news from the Money Master and a check on Wall Street. It's all coming up right here on MidPoint, where we question everything. Welcome back, and a pleasure to welcome back to MidPoint the chairman of Forbes Media and former two-time presidential candidate, Steve Forbes, joins us. Mr. Forbes, when we look at what happened at the midterm elections, there are those who say this was not necessarily people saying, yes, we desperately want the Republicans involved, but we just can't stand what the Democrats have done at this point, and maybe that the Republicans need to understand that, don't celebrate too much, and take that forward into 2016. Do you agree with that idea?
Well, I think people want a positive approach, and you saw that they would reward that in these governor's races around the country. Most Republican incumbents won re-election, and they did hard things. They got through, for example, in Maine, tax cuts that the Democrats fought vigorously. We all saw what Scott Walker went through in Wisconsin, and Rick Snyder in Michigan and elsewhere. So people reward when the executives do real things, even if they arouse controversies. And I think they expect that on the national level, have a sense of direction and fight for it.
You talked about controversy here, and one governor that comes to mind immediately, and that is Chris Christie. There are those who say that he could be a favorite, but he's a little too brusque, he's a little too harsh, if you will, for some people, and that simply wouldn't play well in the national scene. But then again, we've heard from some people who say we want somebody to make the hard decisions. We need somebody to be right out there and get in the face of our enemies and make those calls. Do you think that indeed he just might be a little bit too much for the American public, or do we need somebody like that?
Well, I certainly would love to see him go against Vladimir Putin. I think I'd know who would win that showdown. And I think in terms of Governor Christie, one of the things he must do, and I think he is going to run, is to put forth a platform of positive things. And then people will say, well, he's got a certain way of doing things, but it looks like he wants to get some good things done. They'll take a close look at him. And that means radical tax reform, stop trashing the dollar, and, of course, getting the patient in charge of health care for the first time in a long time.
Now, you think he will run, and again, there's a lot of people who feel that when it comes down to 2016, you hear Scott Walker's name over and over again, and there are people saying that if he indeed won in Wisconsin, he would have to be considered a favorite. Would you agree with those who say that just because he won there in a very tight race against somebody that was pretty overmatched in many ways, that he is a natural choice to be a favorite?
Well, I think he certainly has earned the spot. There's no natural front runner right now, in the sense we've had my-turn candidates in the past in the Republican Party, and he's demonstrated he took on some very, very tough issues, fought a fierce, ferocious battle where his adversaries talked about trampling on the Constitution, doing Gestapo-like early morning raids on people who supported Scott Walker. This was bad stuff, and the fact that he didn't flinch but kept his cool demeanor and still pushed through major reforms, yes, I think he's earned the right for a close look.
Who would get Steve Forbes backing right now?
I'm looking at the whole field. I want to see what they put on the table and how they hold up on the heat of a national campaign. They're going to have to suffer a lot of heat, and so I think we've got a good bench, and I'm confident that whoever does end up with the nomination will win the election. Anybody
you see sitting on the bench that we really don't talk about much?
I counted the other day 20 Republicans who are thinking of running, and then Karl Rove wrote this morning he counted 23. So I'm sure we've left somebody's name off somewhere.
Just checking here, would you want to be number 24?
I'm an agitator now, so I tried, and now I'm an agitator.
Well, don't worry about it. Hey, trust me, we need agitators in this country a little more often. Question everything. That's what we do here. You got to agitate. I got about a minute left here. With regard then to the Republicans, do you think that they have learned the lesson? Can the Republicans and the Tea Party get along at this point in order to go forward in 2016, stop splitting that right vote, and actually then create that line of thinking and that mannerism that will lead people to say that this is the right party for America?
Oh, I think so, and I think that's where the nominee can contribute a lot by having that positive program. I think Tea Party people want to get real things done, and I think that's why you got a good slate of candidates in the last election, and we did as well as we did. I mentioned the governors, how most of them performed very well and were rewarded for it. And for example, I was just amazed that Paul LePage in Maine, a very, very blue state, won re-election, even though everyone had written him off as dead. But he did good things on spending, good things on taxes, and didn't mind telling reporters where to get off.
But I was just going to say, I only got a few seconds left. Come on, Steve, run again, because you're the kind of guy who would tell people where to get off at that point. We need you back in here. It's that kind of attitude.
Well, I tried that, and I still have my day job.
Okay, I understand completely. Fine, and your day job does wonders. Please remind everybody, the book is called Money, How the Destruction of the Dollar Threatens the Global Economy and What We Can Do About It. Steve Forbes, thank you so much for your time, and I do look forward to the next time we get a chance to speak.
Look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Take care, Mr. Forbes. Short break, and we're back with more unfortunate reality for small business owners trying to climb out of Obamacare. And at 34 minutes after the hour, another lawsuit on GM. That and a lot more with the Money Master.